Nate.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Velocities in Music, the best kept secret in music reviews. Before we kick off today's review, happy birthday, Tom!
Oh, thank you!
Oh, you're getting so old.
I know, I'm pretty damn old.
How about, for your birthday, we review a really good album?
I would love that!
Sounds great!
Alright.
How about Queens of the Stone Age?
Okay.
Like Clockwork?
Yeah.
Clockwork?
Yeah,
Alright, sounds good.
Okay.
So what do you know about Queens of the Stone Age, birthday boy?
Well, they got, oh man, birthday boy. So much pressure to get it right on my birthday. Now, Queens of the Stone Age kind of rose from the ashes of Caius, which is a band we've reviewed before too. Josh Homme, guitarist of that band, kind of took the bassist as well and the drummer in the very early days and moved on to form Queens of the Stone Age in the late 90s. Their first album came out in 1998, and this is their sixth album. Sixth album. And man, I just tell you, these guys, they've not done anything bad as far as I'm concerned. No, I mean, it's like everything Josh Homme touches just turns out good. And this album is certainly no different. But stylistically, I mean, they've got kind of a grungy sound, kind of a hardcore sound at times, but they still know how to work in those low moments and the dynamics. They've been classified as kind of stoner rock or stoner metal, which I think was closer to what Caius' sound was.
Sure.
These guys are a little more radio friendly. They've had some radio hits and some commercial success, but still, despite all that, Josh and co know how to keep it real, for sure.
Right, absolutely. And I think that when you look particularly at like Clockwork, you know, a band like Queens of the Stone Age that have come as far as they have and have released great albums like Songs for the Deaf and which are two of my favorite albums of all time, let alone Queens of the Stone Age albums.
Yeah.
But then you compare like Clockwork to just this band's discography and all the other music that's coming out right now, and I think that the first thing that like you realize when you're listening to this album is just the quality that is in every single thing you hear. When you hear the instrumentation, you can just clearly tell that everything is so tight, so well practiced, every note is planned out. The production, while I'll say it's not as masterful as like Songs for the Deaf, I think it really fits the sound that they were going for.
It really does, yeah. I actually wouldn't have liked Songs for the Deaf level perfection in production when it comes to that really crisp, sharp rock sound, because these songs are a little grittier.
Right.
They're a little grungier, they're a little dirtier, and even they deal with a lot more personal themes, and you can tell that Josh is putting an emotion and a personality behind these songs that he hasn't really touched on before. I would call this Queens of the Stone Age's most perfect personal record.
Right, I totally agree. Now, there is a little bit of backstory as far as Josh Homme's personal experience is concerned and how it's reflected on like Clockwork. Now, do you want to go into that a little bit? Do you?
Yeah, well, I mean, the last album, Era Vulgaris, came out in 2007, I believe, and it was a good album, and after that, kind of fell off the face of the planet. And I mean, Josh did some other projects. He did them Crooked Vultures, for example, worked on some other things, but I guess he went through some personal struggles and
he was
just
in the hospital for a
yeah,
while.
Exactly, and he just didn't really know how to recover from it and get back into writing for this band. And with some help from friends, because we all get by with a little help from our friends, talking with folks like Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails, some other friends of his, Alex Turner, I believe, from Arctic Monkeys, both of which are featured on this album, it kind of encouraged him to get back into it, and he started writing songs again, but was really worried about it. And that kind of struggle, that inner turmoil really comes through on this record, not just in the lyrics, but in the sounds themselves. I mean, you listen to like Fair Weather Friends, and wow, you can tell that he is singing that from the heart about people that he knows and experiences that he's had. And even on the lighter side of things, you jump right from that into track 8, Smooth Sailing, which is probably one of my favorites on the record. Just a great song. And it's a little more upbeat, it's a little more fun, but you still get that song has a lot of meaning to the guy who wrote it, and that's something I really value.
And even more so than that, I felt like his vocal parts showed that emotion that he was going through, that perseverance that he pursued throughout the process of creating like Clockwork. And I tell you what, that was one of the most impressive things to me. And with all music that we review on Velocities in Music's channel, we are always looking for a sense of authenticity from the artist. Why? Okay, so the artist is pontificating on some idea musically. They're creating all these ideas. They're presenting them to us in a particular format. Why? And why do I care? Those are the two most important questions as a music reviewer I feel compelled to answer.
Yeah.
Josh Homme clearly dictates the reasons why he's doing things for me, and he does that through his vocals, through his lyrics. The lyrics on this album I think are exceptional. There's a lot of really good lines in there that just give me chills when I think about them. But also in the instrumentation, and the guitars especially are, and as with every Queens of the Stone Age album, the guitars are working their asses off throughout the entire album, and in particular this album, you get a lot of very tight concentrated riffs, but then you also at times will get the more crazy solos, which is what makes this band I think so accessible from a rock standpoint, and I think that's what makes so many people able to put on Queens of the Stone Age and fall in love with them just for their sense of perfection and their just willingness to go out there and rock your face off.
Yeah, and throughout their entire career they've created this perfect balance between complex instrumentation and solid accessible songwriting, as you said. I mean, these songs are nowhere close to simple. It actually reminds me a lot of Soundgarden. If you listen to albums like Super Unknown, it's almost like prog grunge, but it's not like Dream Theater level prog where the instruments are going so nuts all the time that you hardly even know what's going on unless you listen to it like your whole life. But here you can just tell that there's so much going on, but it doesn't stop you from digging into the vocal hooks, just loving the riffs and parts.
It's that perfect marriage where accessibility meets simplicity, and at the same time, you know, it doesn't follow a structure or formula. These songs are complex, and they're doing a lot of things that a lot of other artists don't even think to do, and in how they're structuring these songs and how they're writing these parts, and I really just have to respect them for that. Now, I also, you know, you mentioned a couple of guest spots on this album, Trent Reznor being one of them. You know, we're big Trent Reznor fans. One thing I really like is, if you didn't know that, I don't think you could ever tell that Trent Reznor was on
totally agree, and I love that about it, because going into this album, I'm so glad you said that, because...
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. A little birthday gift from me. So, going into this album, when I heard that the Queens of the Stone Age were going to be releasing again, I got really excited. I did a little bit of research, and I read some interviews of Josh Homme talking about the creation of the album. He mentioned all these guest spots. I mean, Elton John. You know, you've got drummers on here like Dave Grohl and John Theodore. Geez, you know, superstar cast. But then I was thinking, I'm like, man, I really hope it's not a case where Josh has gotten a little bit self-conscious, and so he tries to overcompensate by getting all these guests in there that take the spotlight away from him and have it be overproduced. I was worried about all those things. None of them came to fruition. None of those worries were really part of the equation. I mean, like you said, you wouldn't even know they were in there if someone didn't tell you, but they're still there reinforcing the mix.
Absolutely.
And I never feel like the spotlight gets taken away from Josh.
You know, another great thing about this record is they actually present a variety of different sounds at the same time, but they're always rock. It's always rock-centric. It's just how hard they're going to rock and how experimental they make the sonic palette. And I think that, you know, particularly a track you actually picked, track 3, The Vampire of Time and Memory, gets a little experimental, and that's kind of a cool change-up. It shows that the band is kind of experimenting and willing to take risks still, which is something I definitely appreciate.
Yeah, by the end of that song, it sounds to me like something straight off of mid-70s Pink Floyd.
Absolutely.
So I also get kind of a Bowie-esque vibe from Josh's vocals. Do you get that? I had to throw that out there.
Yeah, but I mean, I gotta be honest, my favorite tracks on this album, which I picked 7 of the, I literally picked 70% of the album, because that's how much I like this album. My favorite tracks were they wrote really good guitar parts and rocked out. My favorite of all is I Appear Missing, track 9, but also Fair Weather Friends I thought was excellent. My God is the Sun was excellent. But there's just a number, every single track on this album, let's just face it, is just top notch. I really don't know what else to say. I don't have any criticisms for this album. The more I listen to it, the more I realize this is the next album I want to put in my music queue. I want to just keep listening to it over and over again. So I expect that I will only continue to love this album in the future, because after 6 or 7 listens, I want more.
I'm right with you.
I'm going 94.
I'm going 94 too.
So I kind of feel like we're even underscoring this a bit.
Maybe. At this point, it's just how much do you love it? I feel like I could love this a little bit more, and that's where I put that gap. But I think it's funny that we both decided on that score independently.
Which is what we typically do. But you know, this is already our favorite album of 2013, and I think
it'll be hard to beat.
It will be, because
we're only halfway through though.
It's set a very high standard for what we're looking for as far as good 2013 albums. If you're going to top this, you know, you got to meet this level of quality, which I think is very tough to do. What did you guys think about Like Clockwork and Queens of the Stone Age in general? This is a prolific band. We'd really love to hear what your favorite album was and what you thought of Like Clockwork at www www.velocitiesandmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesandmusic. Also, give Tom a happy birthday wish at our YouTube channel. It works fine. But also our Twitter and Facebook, which we're actively on all the time, trying to talk with you guys and get you involved in what we're doing here at Velocities and Music. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.